What you could do is you could promote things like value structures. So let me give you an example of this. You're driving down the street, you look over to the right, and there's billboards. You've seen this a million times, right? What if the billboards had things like family, right? Mom, and it showed a mommy and a daddy and the kids, right?
Controversial.
And yeah, exactly. And the push was towards the ideas of normalcy. The push was towards the idea of this is what we want to see in society. What if tax breaks went to married people, right? What if we drastically increase this to the point like some Eastern European countries have done, which has helped their birth rates, where it's like, okay, you have 3 kids, you don't have to pay taxes anymore.
Oh, sign me up for that.
Yeah. You don't have to.
But you don't have to be Christian to pursue that. You can be a secularist politician and promote all those things.
Sure, but under a secular view, why do we need to have a domestic increased population anyway? They can just import who they want. And that's what they did in your country. I mean, that's what they do in my country.
I can give you lots of secular arguments for why having a bigger population is better and having more.
Yeah, but why not import it?
Why not import it? Because you get issues with integration, cultural compatibility.
Unless you import so many of them that the original culture's replaced.
Well, you don't know who you're importing. And also, the argument for tradition, it's actually one of the interesting differences. I mean, we had Dr. David Starkey explain this to I don't remember if it was on our show or not. The difference between American conservatism and British conservatism is British conservatism is about tradition and history, whereas American conservatism is about religion and values. So you could argue for the preservation of a society or the multiplication of an existing culture through time from a non-religious point of view, which is like what we have is good by definition, a priori, because that's what it is. It's our country, it's our society. We want to make more of that.
So it's good because it's good?
It's good because we are already here, right? It's good because where we are is a product of where we've come from, and where we are, we like ourselves, right?
But then you can't argue against mass migration because it's just, what you're saying is just a tautology. This is good because it's good, and that's good.
This is good because we've been given, okay, if my dad gives me a watch, right, it's not necessarily the watch and its unique qualities that make it special. It's the fact that I got it from my dad. So the culture that we got from our ancestors is worth valuing because we got it from our ancestors, because it's where we've come to as a civilization.
But that's, again, it's tautology.
Why?
Because what you're saying is, because I got this from my ancestors, it's good. What makes that good? Because I got that from my ancestors.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
And that's tautology. So what you're doing is you're pointing to the identification of the thing as being the thing, right? Which makes the thing the thing.
I get what you're saying, but I think you're missing my point.
So then I say, well, mass migration is good. Why is it good? Well, because it's good.
No, but I think what I'm saying is, if you take the watch example that I gave you, my dad gave me a watch, right? Yeah. There is a sentimental value to that. Why is that? Well, it's connected to the passing down from generation to generation. Why is that important? Well, it's kind of, I mean, you might not agree with this, but from an evolutionary perspective, the point of life is to recreate itself. And you'd probably say that's tautology if the point of something is to
I mean, again, so now we're getting a worldview, right? I totally agree with you. The primary edict from an evolutionary standpoint is reproduction.
Right.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
So that's why mass immigration is not good, because you're not reproducing your culture, you're bringing in a foreign culture.
Why can't you reproduce your culture with mass migration?
Because it doesn't work in practice, clearly.
Because
people don't integrate.
Let me give you the counter.
Okay.
Are the people that you're importing generally more or less traditional than you?
Traditional to their tradition, yes.
Okay. Do they usually, do their women get pregnant younger than your women?
Yes.
Well, then that seems like it's really good for reproduction.
Of their culture, not of ours.
Well, it's culture.
If they don't integrate into our culture, they're not reproducing our culture.
But you want to reproduce your genetics, right?
From an evolutionary perspective, sure.
Why can't you do it with them?
Because culture matters.
Okay, right, and
our culture is better.
But you said the primary edict's reproduction, not reproduction of culture.
No, but it's like saying you said the primary edict is reproduction, so why didn't you adopt kids? Well, no, I want to have my own kids. That's what I'm saying.
But that would be reproduction. You reproducing your genes.
Yes.
You adopting kids, not you reproducing.
Is not
your
reproducing,
genes.
Just like mass immigration.
But culture itself, the idea of it's an externalized, like, philosophical concept, or it's a concept of the mind.
Yes.
Right? You would agree with that?
Sure.
You're not reproducing that. You're reproducing your genes. That would be the evolutionary view. And so what the evolutionist progressives would say is, like, this is the best way for you to reproduce your genes, because you can bring in a bunch of women who you can breed with younger, so they're going to have more of your children.
But that isn't what's happening. You're importing people who bring their own culture with their own family structure, and they're reproducing that culture.
I'm not arguing this, right? I'm 100,000% with you.
Yeah.
If I were in charge, if I was king of the UK tomorrow, monarch tomorrow,
Yeah.
I would close the gates of immigration immediately and give Tommy Robinson a badge and be like, good job, man. You did the best you could with what you had. But the thing is like, I guess what I'm getting at, before we get into too many reductios, I'm just trying to point this out.
Yeah.
That what you're arguing, you see how what we just did is we took a fact and we're like vibing over it, but now I've introduced some philosophy to it. And so now I'm asking about the grounding. What is the grounding? What is the thing under the pillar?
I think actually we were both talking about the philosophy.
Yes.
Your argument is from a secular perspective, or from a perspective that's not aligned with yours, you can't argue against mass immigration. I thought I gave you some pretty compelling arguments from a secular perspective against mass immigration.
You can argue it. Okay, what I'm saying to you is that if everything that you're arguing is just coming from a me perspective, all morality is just dependent on stance, then even if these people are doing something you consider dumb, it's not immoral. How could it be immoral, or how could it be wrong for them to do that? How? And this is a question when you reduce to the ethical purview. I realized a long time ago, Christians can basically do whatever we want to secular atheists, progressives, because...
What happens to treating others as you would like to be treated?
Well, so you're going to bank on the benevolence of my view?
No, that's the follow.
No.
But
but I should, because you're a Christian.
Right, so if you're going to bank on the benevolence of my view, are you ceding that my view is the right one? Because if it's not...
No, but I'm saying benevolence is an inherent part of being a Christian.
Mm-hmm. So, but if you have a foundation of just stance dependence for all of your moral claims, right? Then even if I violated this and was a complete hypocrite and actually just verbally just paid it lip service for the purpose of controlling your mind, you can't tell me why that's wrong. You can't really point to it and be like, that's immoral, because there are no moral facts.
Yeah. But, okay, but that being the case, but what we're talking about is, you're saying that you want your ideology to dominate.
Yes.
Effectively.
Yes.
Is that a Christian way of doing things?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I mean, well, if we want to look back through human history, we can start with the Byzantine Empire if you want to.
No, but
massive Orthodox Empire. We can talk about the naming of kings by God himself. We can dive right into the lineage of the King of Kings if you want to. The thing is that I'm not here advocating for a monarch. What I'm saying is that society is better off dominated by Christians than dominated by non-Christians. And if you can point to me a society where that's not true, I'm all ears.
Yeah. And what do you mean by dominated? Because a lot of people hear that word and go, whoa, that sounds authoritarian.
The social, political climate, well, there is some authoritarianism to it, I suppose, but I just think there's authoritarianism to each ideology which exists, including liberal ideology. It's just authoritarianism now by direct democracy. So it's like, I suppose Christians might come in and say some things that are pretty controversial. They might be like, no, can't get married. It's illegal. No more. Right? Blasphemy. Let's be a little more chill on that, right? Maybe they'll put in some things like that. Tell me how society's worse. Like, how's society worse because 18-year-olds can't show their ass? It's like, I honestly want to hear, how's it worse? Like, it seems to me like by every metric, it's way better, right? And the people arguing against it are like, well, we don't want totalitarianism. That's totalitarianism? I'll tell you what I saw as totalitarianism was COVID checkpoints, potential vaccine mandates, communications going through Facebook and the government to identify people who wouldn't wear their mask. That seems like a lot more of this totalitarianism, fascism thing than like, oh, sorry, you're 18, you can't put your over the internet. Sorry. It's like, what? Most wallets still plug into the same system we were trying to escape in the first place. And that's why Rumble built Rumble Wallet. It's a self-custodial wallet that lives inside an ecosystem that actually defends free speech and financial freedom. No bank holding your balance, not even Rumble can touch your funds. This is your money, on your keys, on your terms. So if you're serious about sovereignty, financial and digital, this is where you level up. Go to wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in your app store, download it, back up your recovery phrase, and move your money where it belongs, in your hands. At some point, maybe we can introduce rationality back into the scheme here, right? It's like, it's not you do whatever the you want or it's totalitarianism. That's not how it works. It works like this. We're a nation of laws, and laws are governed by ethics. Like it or not, all laws are informed by a person's ethical worldview. So which ethical worldview you want to make the laws? The people who want 18-year-old girls to put their ass on the hands, or the people who don't? Which ones would you prefer make the laws of your nation?
But that isn't that just quite a simplistic way of looking at it? For instance, if you look at literature,
Yeah.
we had Christians saying certain books shouldn't be published. For instance, Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence, a classic of English literature. They didn't want that to be published. They were bowdlerizing Shakespeare. But surely you're a freedom of speech guy, aren't you?
I mean, to an extent, there's no. So here's my view on rights. What is a right? Let's start with that. What is it?
You tell us.
Well, it's a social construction that we made the f up. That's what a right is. If it's something else other than that, tell me what it is. Where is it? I can't see it, touch it, taste it,
So it's the
smell
social construction that you have a right not to be forced to wear a mask.
Yeah. Why? What else would it be?
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Like
So where's this going? What's your argument?
Well, the argument is just like rights are made up. Here's what's actually true. What's actually true is you have a right to do whatever you can do within the purview of force. And that's it. You have rights because people use force to ensure that you have rights. And the second people don't ensure that there's force used so that you have rights, you don't have them anymore. But the secularist, or in this case, not really the secularist, but the atheist mind or the non-religious mind, they can't ground rights in anything. They made them up. So they don't come from God. They just made them up. So what they're saying is that we just make this shit up and somehow we're just all going to adhere to it, even though there's no overarching real moral duty to do so. Where does it come from? Nowhere. So rights don't even exist. You can't taste them, can't touch them, can't smell them, right? They're just products of the mind.
But come back to me about the D.H. Lawrence bowdlerizing Shakespeare point.
Yeah.
And you clutched your heart as if you were clutching pearls in a kind of mocking way, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that?
Who gives a
I give a
Well, okay, great. Ground it. Ground why I shouldn't outlaw that book. Why is it immoral for me to do that? Why?
Because you are American. You believe in the First Amendment. You believe in freedom of speech.
So you're going to appeal to my morals? So from your view, why is it immoral for me to do that? Why?
Why is it immoral for you to do that?
Yeah.
Because I believe that artistic creation is one of the ways that the human being expresses itself.
Makes sense to me. Notice how you caveated that with I believe. Well, I don't believe that. Now what? Now where are we?
Well, that's why we have democracy, so we can adjudicate this, right?
So again, now we're just back to outsource. So as long as I can democratically convince enough people to outlaw that book,
Well, but that's kind of unavoidable, isn't it? Like if you live in a society where 99 out of 100 people believe that something should be X and you believe Y, I mean, logically speaking, you're going to end up in a society that outlaws X.
you would end up in a society which outlawed X, but that doesn't mean that's right.
No, I agree.
Or
I
wrong,
agree.
right?
But then ultimately you have a choice of whether you choose to live in that society or not, right?
To an extent.
Yeah.
I mean, to some extent, maybe you have some control over that. But I guess the point I'm making to you is not that I would outlaw this book, right? The point that I'm making to you is that you don't have any justification for me not to. Like, who cares? Oh, you believe that? So? I believe different. What now, what's the media, what is the threshold breaker? Well, now we're just going to appeal to a majority again. Well, if that's the case, then 5 majority to outlaw the book. Bye-bye, book.
Andrew, I'm not trying to argue with you for the sake of argument. It's a great, really enjoyable conversation, actually. I appreciate the way that you stay calm and on the point, but I'm not clear what point you're trying to make here, particularly with this Shakespeare thing. Like,
rights or force? That's my point.
No, I agree with you on that. Yeah. Ultimately, in practice, that is what happens. But what are you trying to say?
It's not ultimately in practice what happens. It's even philosophically the case from the non-Christian view. When you say things like, "Don't you appeal to the First Amendment or this right?" Right? That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Don't you appeal to this right? This right, we need to have the adult conversation. Doesn't even exist. It's just a social construction that we made up and it was pinned on a piece of paper, and we pretend that it's something we actually adhere to, but it's really not.
Well,
violate it constantly. I don't care.
Yeah.
you argue about, and that's why you have a judiciary system to adjudicate whether you are right. But I mean, it's not just some random people wrote it down. It's the founders of your country wrote it down because they were trying to set a set of rules for this society to operate by, in order to fulfill what they thought would be a vision of a new country that would be a good one.
The founders, what they wrote down was based on a massive compromise because beforehand they had the Articles of Confederation, and the Articles of Confederation made each little kind of state, which wasn't a state even really then, their own nations. And it didn't work out very well because they couldn't regulate trade or raise armies or things like this. So what they did via the compromise was they had a 10th Amendment. Now, the 10th Amendment says that all the rights that are not given to the federal government are given to the states prospectively. And at our founding, almost every single state had a state religion. Almost all of them.
Well, of course, and they were religious people.
And they continued to have them, clear up until there was an interpretation of the 14th Amendment, which was widely viewed as being unconstitutional to this day. States were always allowed to have their own religion and put in their own religious practices, and those practices were to be adhered to if you wanted to hold office, if you wanted to swear oaths, if you wanted to do things like this. That was part and parcel of American society and the way that we did things. Now that has changed as progressives have kind of demonized the whole idea that, that's against the First Amendment. And it's like, well, no, it ain't. And it was part of the initial compromise anyway. When we're talking about the idea of rights, to get this back to the idea of rights, right? Why is it that states don't have the right to do that? Well, it's because there's an interpretation of an amendment, and then they said, well, you no longer have the right to have your own religions inside of these states. That's what they did. I was like, and who has the force? They do. So everything really comes down, when you're talking about rights, to the ideas of force. And the reason that that's so important to understand is because this republic, when we moved it towards a direct democracy, the reason that that's going to fail is because people don't understand this concept that rights only exist as some kind of like bizarre social construct if they're not grounded in God. How does a secular society uphold rights? How?
But how do you uphold your right not to have to wear a mask in the middle of a pandemic through scripture or God?
You would still utilize it through force.
Right.
The scripture doesn't prevent you from utilizing force. With this idea of like Christian pacifism and Christians being, I don't know where that came from.
Britain, I think.
Boy, that was never.
So what about the teachings of Jesus Christ?
Which ones? Which ones do you want to dive into?
Well, I was raised as Catholic, so I'm not as well versed in scripture as you. When he was on the cross, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do.
Of course. And you should forgive people. I absolutely agree with that. I may forgive a man who attempted my wife, but I'm going to kill him in the attempt, right? Like, which thing's contradictory here? It's like, I can forgive my enemies, but that doesn't mean I need to let them crush me. I can forgive people who have done me wrong. It doesn't mean I need to let them do me more wrong. I can forgive people for doing horrible acts against me. It doesn't mean I need to continue to let them do horrible acts against me. Christian ethics has been widely bastardized by progressive leftists as being some kind of like hippie religion. It is definitely not. It never has been, and I don't know where that came from. Yes, it's true the teachings of Jesus Christ are very heavy on loving your neighbor and understanding forgiveness and understanding the mode of sin, and that most people are going to engage in sin, so we need the forgiveness of Jesus Christ for that. That's true. But it's not a pacifistic religion, and it never has been Jesus told one of his disciples to sell a cloak and buy a sword. But these were not pacifists. Jesus ran money changers out of a temple with a braided cord that he made out of leather and whipped them out of the temple. So, like, I don't know where the idea of pacifism came from. He called them serpents. He called people serpents, whitewashed tombs. He called them all sorts of names. These were offenses in his day.